Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to Baranof Island in southeast Alaska. The island is located just west of the Stikine Ice Field, and its pronounced landmark, Devil's Thumb. On clear days, the entire ice field can be viewed from the peaks of Baranof Island, and the bleak and rugged territory can send the stomach of the most experienced outdoorsmen into knots. The elevation here isn't particularly high, running between 3,500 and 5,390 feet at the peak of Mount Veniaminof, the highest peak in the Alexander Archipelago. The mountains here may not be all that high in elevation, but the steepness of the granite ridges is as rigorous as anywhere in the world. They jet sharply from the valley bottoms and reach their height quickly, granting mountain goats the rugged and rocky terrain they thrive in. In the valley bottoms, thick forests of Sitka spruce, western hemlock, yellow cedar, and mountain hemlock are stratified by their ideal elevation. The most prominent bushes here are blueberry bushes and thorny groves of devil's club. At points, these groves are so thick they are impassable and completely obscure any animals hiding there, even from only a few yards. Common animals on Baranof Island include mountain goats and Sitka black-tailed deer, and their predators are brown bears and human hunters. When the crossroads of these two apex predators intersect, they create dangerous and painful results for both parties. For the past few months, 3 friends have been planning to hunt for mountain goats on Baranof Island and have procured a professional guide to help them acquire a harvest in compliance with guidelines. Clint Adams and Matt Erickson were avid hunters and outdoorsmen. Clint's girlfriend, Melody Orozco, was not. Clint had invited Melody along on the hunting trip, but had some pushback from his own family and Melody's as well. Their concerns were regarding whether Melody was prepared to jump into the deep end of the hunting pool, with a remote backcountry experience being her first time hunting. Due to Clint and Matt's experience and the services of the professional hunting guide, they anticipated a routine and enjoyable hunting trip and decided to bring her along with them. The families weren't worried about the hunting group running into brown bears, as much as they were the rigors mountain goat hunting would impose on Melody. Clint had hunted in Alaska before, and knew that Melody would enjoy their time together, and this may be her only chance to participate, so they all decided all 3 would venture out together on the hunting trip. By the time October 14, 2022 rolled around, the 3 friends and hunters had found themselves bouncing across the bay from Sitka as a boat carried them toward Baranof Island. Upon arrival, they utilized an inflatable raft to ferry their gear across the large lake, which would bring them near the jumping-off spot for their goat hunt. As the rain pattered the rocks around them, the party hiked for 1.5 miles before pitching camp for the first evening. Concerned about the rain clouds limiting visibility, the hunters rose early on October 15, 2022, and were relieved to see clear skies. They packed their camping gear, worked their way to the top of the ridge, and looked for a good glassing spot to search for mountain goats. The weather at this time of year is varied, with snow being deposited at times. Slippery, frozen sections of the trail forced the hunters to utilize their ice axes to assist as they climbed the trail. About 400 yards above camp, the hunters were crossing a slope transition when the guide, whom we'll refer to as Bill, began to yell. Bill's words hit Clint's eardrums and invoked a rapid mental reassessment of his plans. The guide's terrified words, "Oh, run." Now, Clint Adams is a big man, standing at 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighing in at about 285 pounds. As soon as the guide's words registered in his mind, he could see Bill running in his direction. Clint stared in disbelief as Bill streaked past him, with his .375 H&H bolt-action rifle still draped across his shoulders. The situation was clearly too dangerous for him to pull his rifle from his own shoulders in his own protection. His eyes were as big as dinner plates, and he was terrified at whatever was chasing him. Clint turned his head back up the hill after the guide ran past and could see a huge brown bear thundering down the trail toward him. The bear's eyes were fixed on Bill, and it completely disregarded Clint's presence along the trail. Clint's hunting rifle was strapped to his backpack, and his only weapon he had immediate access to was his ice axe, which was still in his hand. As Clint watched the bear effortlessly stride its way down the steep and slippery slope, his mind raced, but reached no logical conclusion on what action to take. By the time the bear was within arm's length of Clint, he could see its eyes were still focused on Bill. He saw an opportunity to strike the bear and swung his ice axe with both hands and all of his might toward the bear's 5-gallon bucket-sized head. Now the pointed end of the ice axe is sharp and is about 8 inches in length. As the axe struck the bear, it hit right at the base of its skull and drove into the bear's neck, clean to the shaft. As the bear pursued Bill, it pulled the ice axe from Clint's hands as it raced past him. The bear seemed unfazed with the head of the axe embedded in its flesh as it pursued Bill down the trail. Within a matter of a few seconds it had caught up to him and crumpled him with a single blow of its paws to his backpack. Now Bill and the brown bear tumbled several yards down the slope, stopping at a relatively flat spot. As Clint watched, he could see the massive brown bear stand to its full height of 8 or 9 feet above the guide, with his ice axe still protruding from its head. Bill was still wrestling with his rifle, trying to point it toward the bear and shoot it. The guide fumbled with his rifle and managed to raise it, pointing toward the bear's head, and fired a shot that resounded off the mountainside. As Clint looked on, he could see the bear's fur ripple across its body as the blast from the shot expanded, and the muzzle blast flashed even in the daylight. The concussive wave generated by the high-powered hunting rifle seemed to stun the brown bear. Even though it wasn't struck by the bullet, it staggered back a few feet and seemed to re-examine its plan of attack. Standing off to the side and slightly above the attack, Erickson saw his chance to join the fray. He pulled out his .357 revolver from its chest holster and fired 3 shots in rapid succession at the bear. Brush between him and the bear prevented him from getting a clear shot, but he knew he couldn't pass on the chance to shoot the bear while it was on its hind legs. By now Bill had scrambled to his feet just as the bear charged back toward him. He had leveled his rifle at the bear from a distance of only a few feet and fired a second shot, just as Erickson fired 2 more from his pistol, as the rest of the party screamed, trying to drive the bear off. The brown bear boar seemed confused and overwhelmed at the loud gunshots coming from different places, screams, and people popping up randomly. Between the noise and confusion, it decided that bolting in the opposite direction would likely be its best choice. As it fled from the group of hunters, Clint's ice axe worked its way from being embedded at the base of its skull and tumbled to the ground, where it was recovered by Clint. With the bear having fled, the group stared at each other and checked to see if each of them was all right. After a brief discussion, they continued to the top of the ridge and glassed for mountain goats. As they glassed, they saw an even larger bear further up the mountain and decided they shouldn't press their luck any further. At this point, no one in the party had a single injury, and remaining in an area with such a high bear population may negatively affect that fact. They broke camp and made their way down the mountain and back to the lake shore at the base. They piloted their inflatable raft back across the lake and traveled back to Sitka for the night. In Sitka, Melody was shaken up. The men knew that bringing her back up the mountain was out of the question. They also knew that the weather would be turning bad in a few days, which left them with only the next day to hunt. Clint, Erickson, and Bill decided to return the next day for another attempt at getting a mountain goat. The men boated across a different lake and pitched camp above the tree line. Clint and Erickson shared a tent, but by 7:30 p.m. Erickson fell over asleep, apparently exhausted from the excitement of the prior day. Clint was still riding a wave of adrenaline, though, and played a card game by himself. Suddenly Erickson shot bolt upright in bed and yelled an agonized, "Ah!" shaking Clint for a moment. Clint stammered out, "What's up?" Erickson mumbled, still half asleep, "It was a nightmare. I was getting charged by a brown bear," before slumping back into his sleeping bag. I could find no summary of their day of hunting for mountain goats, but did gather Clint's thoughts following the bear attack. He stated the gunshot, especially from close range, appeared to deter the bear. While in the brush and with only a few yards of separation, he admitted that bear spray likely would have done no good to fend off the bear. He says after watching the bear's reaction to the rifle blast, he now arms himself with a loud air horn. He's growing convinced that overwhelming the bear's sense of hearing short-circuited its desire to attack Bill. He also advises that if you decide to carry a pistol, carry at least a 10mm and as large a magazine as you can get your hands on. Regarding the boar and how it fared after 2 high-powered rifle shots and 5 .357 revolver rounds were fired at it, as well as an ice axe being embedded in the base of its skull, there's no mention of if the bear died or survived. There's no discussion of any attempts being made to find it to check its condition. If it were struck by Bill's second rifle shot only, then it may have survived, even with Clint's ice axe wound to its skull. But if Erickson's round struck it, then its chances of survival would dramatically decrease with each round entering its flesh. Given there was no effort made to follow up on the bear's condition, we will never know if it died or somehow survived. After reviewing the facts around this episode, I am left with a few questions for you. Did the blast from the rifle drive the bear off, or did Erickson's .357 revolver rounds do the job? Do you think the bear could survive the wounds it may have potentially suffered? Would you have gone back up that mountain to glass for mountain goats after having such a terrifying altercation with a boar brown bear? I have no doubt I would not have. I'll be glad to read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.